Hi there, this is Miss Chapman, and this podcast is for the 7th graders studying the Renaissance. We remember from class that Renaissance is a French word that means rebirth. It's a rebirth of Greek and Roman ideas and expressions through art. So the question is, why does it start in Italy? Well, if you remember, there was a time of reviving and beautifying different cities, specifically in Florence with the Florentine Dome. Geography also made Italy a major center of trade. And we know this from our map activities, where Italy is really the crossroads in between the East and the West. There's also 2 major port cities where lots of trade was able to occur. So the imported spices and minerals from the Ottoman Empire, which is also the Byzantine Empire, along with North Africa and regions north of Italy, and France and Spain as well. By the 15th century, there were 5 major powers within the Italian area. The one furthest to the south is Naples. It was ruled by Spain. Towards the middle of the boot are the Papal States. This includes Rome and all of the surrounding areas. North of the Papal States is Florence. Florence, we remember, is the place where the Medicis are. It's where the Florentine Dome was constructed. It was a republic ruled by the city's 7 major guilds, which were represented the wealthiest members of the culture and society there. Milan was ruled by the Visconti family and at the time the Sforzas. They used mercenaries to conquer smaller neighbors to increase the size of their empire. And Venice was an oligarchy ruled by the Great Council. We remember from class that these people came from the Libro d'Oro, the Golden Book, where there were 2,500 wealthy members. They were 10% elected into the Senate for 1 year, and the Doge, the Duke, was the elected head of the entire region. This is a map of Europe that we should be mindful of. We know from our weekly map tests that this is the Papal States, this is the Ottoman Empire, this is the Holy Roman Empire, France, Spain, Portugal, and Great Britain. Now, if you really remember, right in this area, this is the Netherlands, and Venice and Florence are there as well. So, Renaissance society, what was it like? There was a new emphasis on humanity and renewed fascination with the classical world. It was no longer just fun and amusing to find old bits of Greek and Roman pottery or papers. People were starting to discover that they could actually learn from their history and they could really appreciate what the old view had been like. There's 3 phases of Renaissance society. Between 1350 and 1400, there's a noted declining population, there was an uncovering of classical texts, and there were experiments with new art forms. Between 1400 and 1500, there was a creation of a set of cultural values and artistic achievements. This is that time frame where people are starting to travel. There's an increased curiosity in the broader world. Italian city-states developed stable governments, and generalized small-scale warfare ended. We also know that in 1492, someone left Genoa and arrived in the New World. So this is that same chunk of time. Between 1500 and 1550, invasions by French and Spanish really started to transform the Italian political life, but we'll get to that in a little while. When we consider the city, for a very long time, most people prior to the Renaissance lived in smaller areas. They lived on manors, and it was an agrarian-based society. Well, during this time period, 1 in 4 Italians lived in a city, and by 1500, 7 of the 10 largest European cities were actually in Italy. They grew by migration, not by natural increase, so people were moving into the cities as opposed to just having larger families. It was characterized by intense social strife and competition for political power. We're going to learn a little bit more about this when we discover more about the leading families like the Medicis. There were a few different types of social classes. There was the old rich group, which was the old guard. They had had money, they had been in power, and they had a long established history of being wealthy. With the onslaught of new opportunities with business and banking, there was a new wave and a new generation of rich people. Beyond them, there were small business owners, and then, of course, with every society, there needs to be a poorer section of society. So we have peasants as well. Important industries flourished in northern Italy, and new industries like printing and mining. So the question becomes, why is prosperous or growing city situation usually present when a great achievement is made? Well, if you think about it, if a town or community has something new and different to offer, a lot of people are going to want to be a part of it, so they flock to the city. Another term we've been talking about a little bit in class has been humanism, with an emphasis on the human part of that word. So it means the scholarly study of Greek and Latin or Roman classics and the ancient church fathers in hopes of reviving worthy ancient values. They advocated for education and liberal arts study with a heavy focus on grammar, writing, history, poetry, politics, and philosophy. So this new fascination with humans and their potential really dovetailed into 3 different parts. So we've got secularism, which was really more focused on humans and less on religion. So how great man is for being able to make discoveries and to be educated. Then there's individualism, which really focused on learning and the human affairs that could be concerned with the individual. So your own small scale, one person, and all of the events and thoughts and emotions that one person can feel. And the last fascination with this, with the potential of the human comes through power and providing educational tools to enable the mastery of everything. This is the idea where instead of being told what to do, people were starting to ask questions and discover their own learning, and this is really where education becomes powerful. Kind of like what you experience every day at school. So in Florence, it's the first city that we've really been spending a lot of time on. It's called the cradle of the Italian Renaissance, also the Queen City of the Renaissance. It's located near the Arno River, and the Medici helped to usher in a new era. So, who are these Medicis? Well, the oldest gentleman that we're going to pay attention to within the family is Giovanni. He was the founder of the bank. He realized that the papacy, the Pope, position could be purchased due to the schism. There was a split in how people could afford and fund leadership positions. So he funded the anti-pope, John the 23rd, who prior to becoming a pope actually was a pirate. In 1434, Cosimo de' Medici became the richest man in Christendom. Now, Christendom is a term that we're going to use to describe the area where Christianity is most prevalent. So, he also took over control of Florence, and he was a huge patron of the arts, and he's the guy who funded the construction of the Florentine Dome. A few generations later, Cosimo's grandson Lorenzo the Magnificent secured a large patronage. The family fortune dwindled, banks closed, and his son became Pope Leo X. He was the Pope during the Reformation.